welcome. Today I'm gonna give you a tour of my witchy books. A few of you have asked for this whenever you saw a glimpse of my witchy bookshelves in my vlogs or anything, like you asked if I could do a full tour. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a fun thing, until I realized how many books I would actually have to talk about. We have this pile, we have this pile, and I still have some more books on my bookshelves that I decided to not include because they're a little bit more new age spiritual, I would say, and I wanted to keep it strictly to my more witchy and esoteric reads. So we're gonna go through them relatively quickly, I hope. Like, I'm a yapper, so it never really works out that way, but I'm gonna try, because otherwise we're gonna be here for 2 hours. So yeah, let's just get started. I'm just gonna show you what books I have here, tell you a little bit about them, maybe what I learned from them or what they mean for me, and I hope we're gonna have a good time. So I would suggest making a nice cup of tea or coffee, settle down, and just listen to me talk about some witchy stuff. Okay, the first two books I'm gonna talk about together because they are quite similar in both topic and setup. And that is Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes and If Women Rose Rooted by Sharon Blackie. This is one of my most special books. Like, this is really truly one of those books that I can say changed me in a lot of ways, and it's going to be one of those books that I will come back to over and over again throughout my life. You can kind of see in how beat up it is, how much I love this and how much I've dragged this around. To be fair, it's also a mass market paperback, so they're not super strong, but still. In the most simple explanation, I would say that this is a sort of ode to the wild woman, this instinctual nature that every woman carries within her, that wild side within her that is very connected to nature, the seasons, the spiritual, life and death. And this is just sort of a calling back to that side of yourself and reconnecting with it. And the author does this through telling mythical tales, folk tales, fairy tales, and sort of dissecting them, telling what lesson you can learn from that particular story. And I just feel like this book is magical. I don't know how it's possible, but it took me over a year to read this, but every time I felt compelled to pick it up again, sometimes I put it aside for months, but every time I felt compelled to pick it up again, I would have left off at a chapter that I needed exactly in that moment. Like, for instance, I would be going through a breakup and then it would be the chapter about love, or I would be going through like sort of a creative rut and then there would be a chapter about creativity and creating. And every time it worked like this, which really made my connection to this book so much stronger. Like, I can imagine if you do not have that experience with this book, it might not connect with you as much as it did with me. I also know a lot of people who absolutely did not like this book or could not get through it, so it's very personal. But for me, this book really holds like a lot of spiritual meaning. I just feel like there's so much wisdom in here. When I read it, I really felt like I already knew everything the author was saying, but it sort of awakened that side within me again. It was just sort of like a recognition almost. But yeah, this book is very dense. It's not easy to read. It's long-winded. There's a lot of repetition. And I think the author does that to, really ingrain the message in your brain. But like I said, I took my time reading this, and I suggest if you want to pick it up to do that as well. Don't think this is going to be a read that you pick up and just read from beginning to end in like a few weeks. This is just one of those books that calls to you when you need it. Like, I really read this as I imagine other people read the Bible. You just pick it up when you need comfort or strength, and you underline passages and you go back to certain chapters or passages in times of needs. And yeah, I think this book can give you a lot of beautiful insights if you're open to it. And I talked way too long about that one, so we're gonna go quickly through this one. This is basically the same thing. The author talks about fairy tales and myths, and then sort of talks about the lessons in those tales. But these are focused on English and like Celtic myths and folk tales, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, British and Irish folklore and mythology. So it's very similar to Women Run with the Wolves, and this one was also recommended to me when I posted about this one, so that's why I picked this up. I'm not very far in this one yet, on page 37, but as with Women Who Run with the Wolves, I'm gonna take my time with this one, read it when I feel compelled to pick it up, and just savor it, That's how you read these books. in a similar vein, I have Courting the Wild Twin by Martin Shaw. This was fully a cover by, not going to lie. But this basically talks about a fairy tale of the wild twin. And it says that we all carry a wild twin within us that we need to nurture and acknowledge. So it's very similar to the idea of Women Who Run with the Wolves, but it's not focused on solely women, and it's a lot shorter. I do think this was interesting, but if you want to read something like this, I would recommend Women Who Run with the Wolves. This had some nice insights. I definitely underlined some things, but I don't think it was like as life-changing as the other one. Then I have my tarot book. This is called How to Read Tarot, a Practical Guide. I don't see an author for this one, which is strange. Yeah, it has no author. I don't know. This is just the book I consult when I draw tarot cards. Like, I think everyone who's interested in tarot should have at least one guide that explains what all the cards are trying to say. I think there's so many options out there. I think I just randomly found this in like a spiritual witchy store, and this is the one I picked up. But I think there's many options you can go with. There's not really like a wrong way to go there. And of course, you can also find everything online nowadays, but I think it's nice to just have a book next to me physically that I can look up the cards in and interpret my spreads. Then we have Moon Spells, How to Use the Phases of the Moon to Get What You Want by Diane Alquist. This is a stunning little book. I love the cover, but it also has nice little illustrations inside. And yeah, this is basically what the subtitle says it is. Here you can work specifically with the moon phases, learn more about them, and learn how to adapt to the cycle of the moon. So what things are better to do during a waning moon, what things are better to do during a full moon, new moon, and so forth. There are rituals in here, there are spells in here, like whatever. There's job seeking, love spells for men, love spells for women, controlling anger. Like, there's so many things in here. Like, basically whatever issue you have, you will find a spell for it in this book. So yeah, I think this is like a nice little starter spell book if you're looking for something that is very attainable and not too complicated. And if you feel drawn to the moon specifically, I think this is a really nice place to start. There's a lot of useful stuff in here. Then we have The Modern Guide to Witchcraft, Your Complete Guide to Witches, Covens and Spells by Sky Alexander. I think this is the first witchy book I ever bought, so it's very nostalgic to me. It has beautiful deckled edges. I also love the design of it, it's really beautiful. I think this is a complete series. There's also one about tarot, I think, or like just different things. I only have this one, and this is really the basic of the basic. You will see that I have plenty of books like that. Like, mostly if you pick up a guide to witchcraft, they all talk about more or less the same thing, so it's really down to your preference which one you want to get. But they all talk in some way about how to use certain herbs and plants. They talk about crystals, they talk about moon phases, they talk about astrology, they talk about altars and how to perform basic spells. I think that's usually what is covered in a guide like this. So these type of books can get a little bit repetitive and similar. Like, I think you only really need one to get down all the basics, and then you can use more specified books like moon spells, for instance, and like how to read tarot cards. But it's really up to you. Like, I love collecting these books because they're also usually just very pretty to look at. They inspire me. I love flipping through them. So yeah, from what I remember, it's been a while since I read this one. It's just a very good introductory guide to everything witchy. If you want to dip your toe into witchcraft, this covers basically everything. There's like a little bit of history on magic and witchcraft and how you can use it in your daily life. It talks about how to set up a sacred space and altars and shrines, plant magic, crystals and gemstones, charms, amulets and talismans, and then it just goes into all the different spells as well, like the other book I just had. So yeah, I think this is a very good starter book for anyone who wants to learn more about witchcraft. If you're already a bit more knowledgeable, I don't think a guide like this would help you much anymore, but it's pretty to look at, you know? It's nice to have on the shelf. Let's put this pile aside for a moment so we can go to this huge, beautiful pile of books. If you're into witchy books, you might recognize what these are. This is the complete library of Esoterica by Taschen, and they were so kind as to send me the complete series. I already owned two. I owned Witchcraft and Plant Magic, but they sent me the books to complete the series, which is absolutely crazy. These are so stunning, and I was already planning on collecting these over the years because I wanted the series complete. but now I already have them. So let's quickly go through the pile. I'll show you what books are in here and I quickly tell you a little bit more on what they are. So the first one we have here is Plant Magic. I think this is one of my favorites, to be honest. And the way these books are set up is that they talk about different esoteric disciplines through the lens of art. So these books are both very historical and they have a heavy focus on art pieces, which I think is really nice. Like for instance, this one starts with a chapter From Soil to Sky, a brief history of humans in the natural world. So what prehistoric humans believed about nature. They talk about the Bible and paradise, obviously. Here you can see an art piece about that. And there is just such a wealth of information in here. Like I will not be able to get through this anytime soon because there's just so much. But even if you cannot read them, they are just absolutely stunning to flip through. Like just look at these images. If you're interested in making art, painting, illustrating, these are also great to have like as references. There's just so much to find in here. And it goes from like really old art to like more modern stuff such as this. I think in this one even Florence Welch is featured. Where are you? Yeah, there she is, my queen. So yeah, there's so much in here. Whether you're interested in history, art, or like more witchy esoteric things, like I think there's something for everyone here. So I'll show you all the books that are in this pile. This was Plant Magic. Then we have Witchcraft. This is the first one I ever got. So stunning. As you can see, I marked all the pages that interested me or had like an art piece that I really loved. That's just sort of how I use these books. I use them as a reference, as a sort of like research book. I feel like I'm in school when I read this, which is very fun. There's Spirit Worlds, Astrology. What I specifically love about this one is that they discuss every astrological sign separately and show like all the art pieces for that specific sign, which is really cool. The same holds for tarot because they discuss each tarot card and show all the different interpretations of that card, which is amazing. Like for instance, these from the Star. So beautiful. And lastly, we have Sacred Sites. Love this painting on the back. So that is the complete library of Esoterica. I am in love with these. This is not sponsored. I'm not paid to talk about these, but I did get them as a gift and I'm so excited about it. So I wanted to show them off a little. I do have an affiliate link, so I'll put that in the description down below if you want to check them out yourself, or maybe give like a witchy spiritual friend in your life a nice beautiful esoterica book for Christmas. I don't know. So I'll leave that there, and yeah, these are my pride and joy of my witchy book collection. I'm gonna put them down now because they're very much in the way. Let's continue with the Spirit Almanac, a modern guide to ancient self-care. Is that how you say it? Almanac? Almanac? I don't really know how to pronounce that. But again, very stunning book. I feel like this one feels a little bit less witchy and more a little bit like self-care, spiritual, Ibiza, girly, targeted, if you know what I mean. Just because of the design, like that's really the only reason. But it is a beautiful book. And again, it contains a lot of rituals. And what I really appreciate about this book is that they target it around like the different celebrations of the Wheel of the Year. So for instance, here you have the winter solstice. They give you information about it and they give different rituals. For instance, here, a planting ritual for faith. So to get through the winter months, you do a planting ritual to have faith that things will grow again in spring. I love the beautiful illustrations in there. I really like the division with the seasons. I think that's my preferred way to do rituals and spells myself, really in tune with the seasons and the time of the year. So this is a really good and extensive guide. It also has a section at the beginning, again, with all the basics, tarot cards, altar, crystals, moon phases. All the basics are in there. So again, it's really down to your preference what kind of basic guide you prefer. But like I said, I think all of them cover the basics pretty well. Like they all kind of say the same thing. So again, this one is very similar to the Modern Guide to Witchcraft. This one is a little bit more spiritual based. This one is a little bit more spiritual based. This one is a little bit more witchy. So I think it's just the name you call it in the end, but it all comes down to the same thing. It's all energy, it's all intuition, it's all syncing within yourself and feeling. So it doesn't really matter, but these are both really stunning. Then I have one that I got recently. It's called The Old Ways, a Hedge Witch's Guide to Living a Magical Life by Johanna van der Hoeven. It's a really cute cover. I think this might be made in Canva because I recognize some of the illustrations, which is really funny. As the title suggests, this one is more about hedge witchcraft. So a hedge witch is someone who combines herbalism and more trance work to connect to the spirit world. I think they use something called hedge riding. Yeah, it's called hedge riding. It says, following Joanna's guidance, you will develop a daily practice that involves connection to nature, deity, fair folk, and your familiar. So this one is a little bit more specific than like the basic guides I have here. That's why I got it. I just want to dive a little bit deeper in certain branches of witchcraft and sort of see what speaks to me most, because I haven't really discovered yet what kind of witch I would call myself. I think if I had to choose right now, I think it would be just an eclectic witch, because I feel drawn to all branches of witchcraft, specifically mostly green witchcraft and divination, because I do love my tarot cards, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I think it will be very interesting to learn more about the hedge witches. Then we have a stunning illustrated guide. This is The Green Witch Illustrated, an enchanting immersion into the magic of natural witchcraft. If you're interested in green witchcraft, I think you have to get this one. It is so beautiful in every way. And again, this is just a guide that covers all the basics, but if you need a guide that covers the basics, it might as well look stunning like this one. I love that this one really feels like initiation into being a green witch, because at the start it opens with a meditation to do, and then the oath of the green witch, which I really love, because I think an important part of being a witch is giving back and like caring for nature, as the practice is so closely connected to nature. So I think the care for it should be a really important element of the craft. And this book really touches upon that. It talks about the ethics of green witchcraft and so forth. But yeah, let me show you some of the gorgeous illustrated pages. For instance, this page talks about the importance of your journal and how you can use it. This talks about your home as your sacred space. This page, absolutely stunning as well. But yeah, again, this is a basic introductory guide, but really more focused on green witchcraft. So if that's something that you feel attracted to, I think this would be a really beautiful guide to start with. Talks about grounding, the elements, talks about plants and trees, talks about the seasons and the wheel of the year. It talks about using your senses. This is one of my favorite pages about mushrooms and fungi. And here she also talked about stones. Like, isn't this so gorgeous? Just opening this book really inspires me to, you know, do some spells. Let's do a little tea break because I'm talking a lot. I feel like I'm also talking so fast. If that's the case, I'm sorry. I just wanted to go through these relatively quickly so I don't have to edit a 3-hour video. Here we have The Wheel of the Year, an illustrated guide to nature's rhythms by Fiona Cook and Jessica Roux. This, again, is a stunning book. I had my eye on this for quite a while, and then I finally asked for it for Christmas last year. And I'm so happy I did, because it is stunning. Just look at those end pages. And this book, I think, is actually meant for children. It's written in very simple language, and the tone of voice definitely feels a little bit childlike. But it doesn't bother me at all, because this just contains such a wealth of information again. And I think this is also a very accessible guide if you want to start with some spells. Because it's for children, everything is very like accessible and easily doable, which I think can help if you just get started so you don't feel too overwhelmed. Like, I still feel like a beginner witch. I'm not very experienced with larger spells and rituals that I have to like go outdoors for and stuff. I usually just sort of tinker away at my little desk here, do some tarot cards, stuff like that. So for me too, this is a really great guide to get started sometimes. As the title suggests, this talks about the Wheel of the Year, or the Witches' Sabbath. So the celebrations like Ostara, Beltane, Midsummer, Mabon, Yule, those kind of celebrations. I always forget how to say this one. Wait, I'm gonna look it up. Sound. Like, it's so different from how you write it. Like, in my head, it's just Semaine, but it's sound. I have to remember that. So for instance, here in the chapter of Beltane, it just talks about the history of this celebration, the meaning of it, what this time spiritually stands for, what you should watch out for during this time. It talks about goddesses and mythical creatures connected to the celebration, but it also gives activities and rituals you can do during this time. So for instance, a scavenger hunt, which I think is really cute. It talks about the plants that you can find a lot during the season. So for instance, dandelions are a very important flower during this time, so it gives you a little activity to make dandelion tea and use this in a ritual. For every season, it gives you tips on how to adapt your altar to the season, what items you could put on there, what intentions you can infuse it with. So again, I think this is a beautiful starter guide, especially if you want to work specifically with the seasons and rhythm of nature. I think this is an amazing place to start. It's also so cute if you have kids to do this with them together, just to make them more aware of nature's rhythms, how they can care for nature and give back. I think this is a really beautiful and sweet guide, but it's also actually very useful and contains a lot of information. Then lastly, for the books, we have these two hideous ones. After this, I'll show you my different tarot decks, but let's discuss these first. Yeah, I have two books from the Dummies collection. And I feel like these have a bad reputation. They're kind of lame, you know, you see them usually in a classroom or like an IT room. And yeah, they're not the most stunning books in existence, and they don't have like the coolest image. I think they just feel very 90s to me. But when I tell you, these are so useful, these are so extensive, they contain so much knowledge, and they actually teach you something practical. Like, is it sexy to learn witchcraft from a Witchcraft for Dummies book? No, like, of course, this looks much prettier on your shelf. But I do think I would recommend this one the most if you want to learn about the craft. Especially if you want to learn about the background of the craft, the ethics of it, what it can mean to you, how you make it something personal to you. There is so much information in here, and I'm still working my way through it. I'm currently at page 83, so I still have so much to go, but I feel like I already learned so much from this book, especially how to just approach witchcraft as a personal craft. This is one of the few books that talk about the ethics of it, and especially the topic of cultural appropriation, which is very prevalent in witchcraft, especially like online. Because this book is very new, it's published this year in 2025. Yeah, it talks about the more ethical parts of the craft, which I think is really, very important, and none of these other books that I have to touch upon that subject. So only for that, I would really recommend this one. But the information is just so extensive. And like, I cannot really speak for this one yet because I'm not that far, but I fully have faith in this book because I also have the astrology one. And this is one I have read from front to back a few years ago because I wanted to learn how to make and read birth charts. And I did. Like, I think I kind of forgot everything, but I could make this from scratch. If I know someone's time and hour of birth, I could make this. I could make this for you, which is such a fun skill to have. Like I said, I kind of forgot everything. It's complicated stuff. But the fact that I learned all of that from this book, I really felt like I was in school. I would sit down with this book, have my notebook, I would do all the exercises, I would do all the calculations. There's like references in the back to help you make the calculations. Like, this really felt like a school book, but in the most fun way. Like, if I went to high school and there would have been a course on astrology, you bet I would have skipped to school every day. So if you actually want to learn something practical, I think these books are so amazing. You just have to look past the horrible exterior. Actually, you don't, because school books were also super ugly. They always had these stock images on the front. So if you want to act like you're in witchcraft school, I think these books are so fun to have. So just to give you a little bit more of insight what these talk about, there's first a part that says Opening to Modern Witchcraft, which really talks about finding your roots, calling on your ancestors, knowing the folk tales in your culture. Part 2 talks about all the mythologies in witchcraft, so sort of like the stories that the craft is built upon, like the maiden, the mother, the crone, all those type of stories, different goddesses in different cultures. Then you have part 3, Practicing Your Craft, which talks about initiating your magic, setting up the space, casting spells, ritualizing your life. Part 4 talks about the 4 different kind of witches. This book sort of divides witchcraft in divination witch, green witch, cosmic witch, and energy witch. And of course, these all kind of have like subcategories within them. Part 5 is about expanding beyond personal practice, so joining a coven, holding space, aligning with spiritual activism, which again, I don't think any other book I have talks about spiritual activism and like doing good for the world as a witch, which I think is so important because that's such a big part of, you know, being a witch. I feel like changing the world for the better. And then lastly, in part 6, you have actual practical spells you can do: grounding, cleansing, protecting, chanting, attracting, blah blah blah. And then the 10 days of ritual observance, which talks about the Sabbats and the moon cycles. So there's a lot in here. I honestly cannot wait to go through it all. I think this is a very good addition to the more practical, simple guides like this one. This one really talks about the properties of plants and trees and crystals and all that stuff. This one really talks about what it means to be a witch and how that would look like in your daily life, which I think is actually really important. This might be a really good place to start as well if you are a little bit confused on what people mean when they say they are a witch and what that means for them. I think this contains so much knowledge and it really approaches the topic with a lot of sensitivity, which I really appreciate. Lastly, I just wanted to show you my 3 tarot decks that I have, just because I think they're fun and they're pretty to look at. So to start with the basic, I have my beautiful tarot box that I broke on the first day that I got it. I don't know if you can tell, I was so sad. But this one holds the basic Rider-Waite, if that's how you pronounce it, cards. I think these are the most famous, like classic tarot cards that are out there, like the most well-known. And this is also my daily deck that I use the most. I feel most connected to this one. I feel like my energy is really in here, so it always gives me exactly what I need. And because these are so famous, it's really easy to find information on the illustrations and how to interpret the different elements of the illustrations, which I think is really helpful. So that's why I enjoy using this one. Then I also have the Art Nouveau tarot deck, which I got from my boyfriend for my birthday last year. It is so stunning. It just has really gorgeous, gorgeous illustrations that make it really fun to just look through these. I love them. Also the back. Stunning. And lastly, I have the Antique Anatomy Tarot by Claire Goodchild. It comes in this box and I was just in love with the illustration style on this. These feel just very dark academia, which I really, really like. Look how stunning. I love these. Like, I don't use them a ton because I feel like the illustrations are more for decoration and they're really hard to interpret according to the message on there. They don't really have anything to do with the message anymore, I would say. So in that sense, I really think the Rider-Waite is the best one out there. But yeah, these are just beautiful to have. It's just my little tarot card collection that I enjoy looking at. So that's all I had to show you today. I hope this video was interesting to you and not too repetitive, because essentially a lot of these books are about the same thing, of course. But I hope you got some good recommendations for it. Definitely let me know if you have any good like witchy book recommendations. Tell me in the comments, I would love to know. And thank you for watching. If this was your first time here and you feel like sticking around, feel free to subscribe. And I hope to see you soon in the next video. And also the next video is probably going to be my alchemized vlog, and it's going to be interesting. So stay around for that. Bye!
3, 2, 1.
No. Okay, harder.
3, 2, 1. Oh my god. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
I had one of those candles that just... Oh.